I did it! After only 4 hours of grinding, 2 attempts, I completed what I consider the first major milestone of the Abattoir of Zir, which is a tier 10 dungeon. And I'm so excited to share with you my findings. Greetings internet, DDA here, and the internet is buzzing right now with Abattoir of Zir sugar plums dancing in everyone's head. I've learned so much in the past 4 hours running these dungeons. I've failed many times. I had to adjust my build on the fly. Things are never what we expect them to be, and I'm sure for many of you, the Abattoir exceeded your expectations. I'm sure for many of you, the Abattoir did not meet your expectations. I know the hot topic right now is how much XP the Tears of Blood glyph is actually taking us to level. So I wanted to share with you all not only my top 5 tips and tricks to succeed in the Abattoir of Zir general for all classes, but I also wanted to share with you my learnings about the Sorcerer class, how I've adjusted my build. So if you're interested in more of a general overview on the Abattoir, the general tips and tricks are located at the front end of the video. The more specific Sorcerer learnings that I've had over the past couple hours are going to be located at the end of the video, where I'm going to do a deep dive into all the changes that I've made and how I'm maximizing my ball lightning build in the Abattoir. So sit back, relax, and it's time for your top 5 tips and tricks for the Abattoir of Zir. Tip number 1 for you is to go to the gameplay menu of your settings and scroll down to the combat text display mode. Click the drop down and select hide damage numbers. This is going to hide all your damage numbers from your site while you're running these dungeons. And why this is so important is it is paramount that you are dodging all of the nasty floor stuff, all of the huge overhead swings, all of the explosions that are occurring. You are going to need to clearly, visibly see everything that's going on in the Abattoir of Zir if you're going to succeed. Tip number 2 is champions are your number 1 priority to kill in combat. That means dashing through mobs sometimes, going into different rooms, or even checking areas that break line of sight. Sometimes champions will be hiding around corners and applying their damage aura, and the HP that the mobs scale in the Abattoir of Zir gets so ridiculous that having the champion aura while you're fighting makes it pretty much impossible to kill anything. So you're always going to have to keep in mind where the champions are and just have them be your top priority to attack and focus in every single combat. Tip number 3 is to save the shrines until the end. Now this takes some getting used to, but when the bar is about 70% full, you can start thinking about saving shrines to easily kill the end bosses, the Bloodseekers. Many players who played Diablo 3 talk about greater rifts in comparison to Abattoir of Zir. They talk about how the greater rifts had a shrine meta. Now I'm not sure how that compares to the current state of the Abattoir, but I noticed running through the many dungeons that there are a lot of shrines, usually between 2 to 4 shrines per dungeon run. So it's easy for you to kind of depend on these shrines and save them to the point that you need them the most. Now if my bar is 50% or 60% or under, I just grab the shrine immediately and just start using it to help me clear. But as my bar starts getting full, like I said, towards 70%, that's when I start really making decisions. I start looking at the map and deciding, well, how can I get my bar full? Are there any forks in the road that I can take that I could kill some extra mobs to make sure that the Bloodseekers spawn a little closer to the shrine that I'm saving? This tip is less applicable for the earlier tiers of the Abattoir, but as we get into the later tiers, the tier 10s, 15s, and 20s, I think this is going to be pretty much the standard strategy, and it's good to practice now and get used to it. Tip number 4 is that as soon as the Bloodseekers spawn, you're going to want to run away. Now there are multiple reasons to do this. If you're not playing a Melted Heart of Selig Injured Immortal build, I'm not sure if there's any class that can take a triple attack, like a triple leap attack from all 3 Bloodseeker bosses on you at one time. They will burst you to 0 if you just stand there and take all their damage. So you're going to want to run away to not only get back to that shrine that you saved, but also to kind of siphon them and funnel them into a single file line where you can more easily funnel their damage and stagger their damage and not take it all at once. Also, running away allows you to potentially split them. There are some instances where you can actually split the aggro and only aggro one or two of the Bloodseekers, separate them from the pack, kill them off, and making the fight overall much easier to do. Pretty much my standard is that as soon as I fill the bar, I immediately start running and then kind of inch towards them, aggro a few of them and pull them to the shrine that I saved. And then likely I'll either pull one or two of them or maybe all three of them, kill those off, and then fight the single one that's left. Your fifth and last tip is going to be, don't be afraid to run. Again, you should be getting to the Bloodseekers with about 2 to 3 minutes to spare, or better if you're just kind of farming Glyph XP and you're doing underleveled content. So you have enough time to sit and wait. You don't have to take this fight quickly. You have some time, and you should have some time. You should be able to clear the dungeon with enough time to take a methodical approach to this fight. And sometimes you're going to have to. Sometimes the Bloodseekers are going to spawn with affixes that just annihilate you. For instance, in this dungeon, in my first tier 10 clear, I'm a Ball Lightning Sorc, and I had two of the Bloodseekers spawn with Waller and Suppressor. And if you know anything about Ball Lightning, you know that Waller and Suppressor are pretty much the two worst affixes that any elite can have. As the enemies increase in HP more and more, they're going to be able to survive our burst rotation. They're going to be able to survive the duration of our ultimate. So don't be afraid to burst one, focus fire one down, and then run away and wait for your ultimate cooldown to come back and then re-engage the fight. So there you have it. There are our general tips for all classes. I hope they find you success in the Abattoir of Zir. Next up, we're going to take a deep dive look at the changes that I've made with the Sorceress. So I made a lot of changes to my Sorceress build while I was traveling through the Abattoir. I made a lot of changes from tiers 1 through 5, and then really pushing myself to get up to the tier 10. I made a lot of changes in addition to that. I didn't play that long. I only played a couple hours. I only have a level 5 Tears of Blood glyph, so there's a lot of room for growth here. Being that I have such a low level on the Tears of Blood glyph, and I'm still able to clear tier 10s with relative ease, I think there's just a lot of potential here, and I do think that we can end up clearing the tier 25 with maybe some more changes. So the first change, the first thing I want to talk about is I don't run a lucky hit base build. I know a lot of people are doing the lucky hit base builds for Ball Lightning. I have nothing against the lucky hit base builds. I've seen them. I've seen, what Rax is doing, and I like it. Nothing against it. It's just not for me. It's not the direction that I took it in. I chose to more focus on increasing the maximum damage of my balls versus using the lucky hit to summon more balls, or say, I know a lot of people are solving the resource problems with lucky hit. I decided to go against that as well, and use like the Tibalt's Will and use some skills in the skill tree to help give me resource versus having the lucky hit. So that's the first thing that I just want to get out in the air. So if you see anything weird, just know that I literally have no lucky hit in my build. So the first big change I made, I knew I was going to kind of do this. I dropped Raiment. I knew I was going to do this. I thought in my heart of hearts, I thought I was going to be able to get through a little bit more of the Abattoir by using Raiment. Raiment is just so powerful, not only for your damage, but just the grouping of enemies. It just works so well with Ball Lightning to be able to teleport in, group everything up, suck everything in, and then your balls just shred everything. The problem with this is when the mobs get so much HP that they're not dying in a single rotation. Basically, they're not dying within the 3 second stun. It's 2.9 for me. So I found that I needed to be a little more tanky, so I made the switch to a normal kind of damage reduction chest with the I'm running Everliving right now. The reason I'm running Everliving over, say, Vir's Mastery, which I do have a chest in my inventory right now, I'm waiting for this because I'm waiting for me to hit another ceiling, and it to kind of force me to make another change in my build. So I have this chest here. It's pretty strong. I like it a lot. It's pretty strong. Really high damage reduction from burning and damage to distant and total armor. Great rolls there. Min roll on close, it's fine. But I'm going to put this Vir's Mastery on there. So right now I am running with the kind of bugged Esu's Ferocity. We know it increases your crit damage, so I'm running with that. But if I hit another ceiling, then I'm going to switch to Vir's Mastery and go with the other chest, this chest. So again, I kind of expected that change, but I wanted to make a note of it. I just wasn't able to get through with Raiment. I know that there was another content creator. I saw some videos of him saying that he was going to focus his build on using Raiment and freezing everything, and maybe that works if you can keep everything perma-CC'd, but you quite literally need to CC everything permanently, because with the Raiment on, I was getting one shot randomly. You know, with the extra ranks of Glass Cannon and the 0 damage reduction affixes, you just get one shot. So the other change that I made is actually in my Vampiric powers. I dropped the Accursed Touch Vampiric power. So I realized that I was doubling up on vulnerability a little too much. Like I have the Metamorphosis power that is making them vulnerable with the Prey on the Weak already, because I'm able to dash through and then apply Vampiric Curse, and then they become vulnerable off of that. And likewise, I'm getting vulnerable from the Chain Lightning too. I realized with the Accursed Touch, Prey on the Weak combo, I was just doubling down on the vulnerability a little too much. I was overstacking it. I was overstacking effects. I was like, oh, I want vulnerability on everything always. And that's not a bad way to approach it, but you're giving up other things by making that decision. And what I was giving up was the amazing defense of the Vampiric powers. So I decided to drop the Accursed Touch, and I added Resilience in. This is to just prevent one shots, because you'll be hit a little bit and then you'll get hit again, or you know, like 2 shots. Poison is everywhere, it seems, in the Abattoir. So as poison is ticking you down, you're gaining more damage reduction. This is just a great power, so I decided to just throw this in, and I'm ready to make more adjustments to the Vampiric board. I kind of mentioned that I'm really going hard into vulnerability, and right now I'm still playing with the Prey on the Weak Metamorphosis combo to dash through. I'm dashing through a lot. If you watch that clip, I dash through and I make enemies vulnerable a lot with this. So this is great, but the problem that I'm running into is I think I'm running out of potions. I'm not running out of potions yet, but I'm getting to a point where I might start running out of potions, and I need a form of healing. And an option, I could add in the Undying power, so I would have to drop another power. I could drop Prey on the Weak and just have my only form of vulnerability be the Chain Lightning. And the way that I think we can get away with this is the mobs are not really the problem. As long as you're scaling your Tears of Blood glyph periodically, you're increasing your multiplicative damage. I don't think the mobs are going to be the problem. The main problem with your damage is the Bloodseekers, and with the Chain Lightning, with 3 Bloodseekers, you have enough there to make them vulnerable. You do. So you don't need more than just the Chain Lightning vulnerable to make the Bloodseekers vulnerable. The Chain Lightning is not enough to make all mobs vulnerable. It's definitely not enough. You definitely need the Metamorphosis Prey on the Weak combo to make the mobs vulnerable, but I'm thinking that I might be able to play around and drop the Prey on the Weak in order to work in the Undying and give myself a little bit more healing. So the next thing I want to talk about is the Tears of Blood glyph placement in the Paragon board. If you watched my previous video, I released that video with very little knowledge about what this Tears of Blood glyph was going to actually be, and it was a lot of speculation. Turns out I don't want to say I missed the mark. I still think the boards and conclusions that I came to in that video were the correct conclusions. Those are the boards that we're going to want to use. The problem is the timing. The differences in boards are only really applicable after you get the glyph to level 50, and right now my glyph is sitting at level 5. It is nowhere near 50, and if you watched Rack's video on his napkin math about how long it's going to take us to get to level 50, it seems like it's going to take us a long time. Some serious grinding. So I may have just kind of overinflated the importance of the board choice because it's only applicable when you get to level 50. You can literally throw this in any board and it pretty much has the same effect. And, you know, kind of added to that, I wanted to mention that, you know, it gives you the bonus to the rare nodes, but we're already getting bonuses to rare nodes, say from the reinforced glyph, right? That's giving us 125%, right? So if I were to throw the Tears of Blood in place of reinforced, I would actually be making myself weaker because I'm losing a lot of percentages on these rare nodes because this is 125%, whereas the Tears of Blood is only 50%. So I'm actually hurting myself by making that replacement. And you break even at level, I think, 80, where this becomes, I think, 130% at that point, and then you're actually kind of exceeding the power of that glyph, and then from that point on, then it would be stronger. So this is, again, kind of showing that we need a lot of grinding to get to the point where it really matters where we're placing this. So at this point, doesn't really matter. Just throw it in any old board. I just have it here in my static surge board, and I'm just getting every node and just getting that 91 damage multiplicative. So the last thing I want to note that I realized as I was running through is the importance of two things in the skill tree: the importance of Flame Shield and the importance of Elemental Attunement. These abilities are so important in the Abattoir of Zir because the fights are just lasting so long and the mobs are doing so much damage. There's so much going on, so much CC, so much burst damage is happening. The fights are just lasting forever. So adding an extra 0.8 seconds on this Flame Shield is massive. I know it sounds like a small amount because it's only 0.8 seconds, but if you just consider resets, I noticed that dumping a lot of points into this, a lot of times I'll be able to double Flame Shield. And that's huge. That could win you an elite fight. That could win you a Bloodseeker fight. Very, very strong. So I originally didn't have any points into Flame Shield. Well, I had the Mystical, so I had the 1 point, but I am maxing this out now. Fully max this out, and then fully maxing out Elemental Attunement because I just think these two abilities are so cornerstone to our survivability and our ability to clear high-level content and content that's above our kind of ability level, like above our stat level, basically, because this allows you to break the stats, basically, because the stats don't matter. I'm immortal. You can't CC me. You can't damage me. Another thing I did, I threw another point in a teleport just because teleport's amazing. It's an amazing cooldown. Your ability to move around and break CC with this is spectacular. I want to put more points into this, but you can see I'm really scarce on points. I don't even have anything in a Chain Lightning anymore. I just have the 1 points into the Lightning Spear for the CC. This is way too good. You need this CC, so this is not going anywhere. I dropped Conjuration Mastery. That's how I ended up getting the maxed out Flame Shield. You don't really need this. It doesn't add that much damage, so I just dropped it. And then I ended up dropping the Conduction as well. That's how I got the rest of the points into the Flame Shield. I don't know where else we can... And as you can see, I only have 2 points into Unstable Currents. I don't have the Supreme Unstable Currents anymore. This is good. I'm partial to this. I know I'm going to get some flack in the comments probably. Oh, why do you run this? Oh, if you ran Lucky Hit, you wouldn't have mana problems. Well, I don't run Lucky Hit, so I like the Fiery Surge. It works for me. So, but everything else is super tight. I don't have any other wiggle room for points. I would love to put more points into Teleport. I just don't have the points. And so, yeah, this is what I've learned. So the major takeaway points here, drop Conjuration Mastery because you don't need that. And drop Conduction just because speed is important, but the fights are just lasting so long. And inside of a long fight, this is not helping us anymore. It's mainly a speed farming skill. Put those points into Flame Shield. Max out your Elemental Attunement. You need this. You need the double Flame Shield. It is so important. And then just dump everything else in a Teleport and just hope you can get Teleport as high as you can. So I hope you all enjoyed my first kind of take on the Abattoir. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun because I like min-maxing. I like pushing myself to the limits. I know the Tears of Blood glyph kind of disappointed a lot of people. I think we all had this fantasy about getting it to level 200 and then one-shotting everything in the game. One-shotting, every class is going to one-shot world bosses. Every class is going to one-shot everything in the game. I know we all had that fantasy. I did too. I was a little disappointed, but remember what the Abattoir of Zir is giving us. It's giving us pinnacle content to challenge our character builds. That's what it is. We all have a benchmark now to challenge our character builds. That's what this is. The Tears of Blood glyph is disappearing. There's no reason to focus on it. There's no reason to be upset that we're not going to hit level 200 because it's disappearing. So why be upset? Just enjoy testing your builds, enjoy pushing as high as you can, and just have some fun. So we'll see you around, and hit a like if you like this video. Please hit that like, hit that bell, hit subscribe if you want much more Diablo content. We're going to be pushing out tons of guide videos as we learn more about Diablo.